Hi, this is Dustin Hobbs of the California MBA. Welcome to Connect, our monthly podcast featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. Again, this month, as everyone is sort of stuck at home, we're doing our part to at least bring you some more content. And so this is our another one of our bonus episodes of Connect this week. Usually they're monthly podcasts, but this month we're doing one each week. Last week we did a great interview with AmeriHome's John Hedlund. So if you haven't watched that, make sure and go to our YouTube channel and check that out. This week, I'm really excited. We're going to be interviewing Tim Nguyen. He's the co-founder and CEO of BeSmartee, one of the growing number of the California MBA's tech-focused members. So I'm excited to hear what Tim's got to say and find out more about his backstory and what led him to start BeSmartee. So let's jump right in here, Tim. What is your journey? Your backstory. I know you've got a great one. I'd love to hear your journey from where you started to how BeSmartee got founded and what sort of brought you up to where you guys are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Dustin. I appreciate the opportunity to share and speak with you. So I actually stumbled upon the mortgage space, hanging out with a buddy one day. He was a real estate appraiser. He said, "Do you want to go hang out, or do you want to just stay here and wait for me?" I said, "No, I'll go with you." Hop in the car, park in front of the gentleman's home. He comes out 15 minutes later with a nice size check. I was 20 years old at the time, right? So $300 was a big deal. Anyhow, so I said, "What do you got to do to earn that?" He said, "Look, I got to get licensed as an appraiser." And he said he was leaving to Washington Mutual to become a loan officer at the time, inviting me in, and that's how I got my start in mortgages. But particularly BeSmartee, though, through the mortgage, through servicing appraisals, did notary and title as well. Learned a lot about the back end. Didn't know much about the front end. And it dawned on us one day after getting complaints from borrowers. This is right at the onset of the financial crisis.
Oh, wow.
People were, this was 2007, right when New Century went under. And borrowers would call us and say, "Hey, I can't find my loan officer. I don't even know what a NAGAM mortgage is." So reached out to some of our clients, learned more about the front end origination space. And it just dawned on us that this data's out there. The experience could be better. Why are we asking borrowers to fax in bank statements? So, at the time, there was a company called Mint.com that was coming around. We could import that in. So we put those pieces together, and BeSmartee was born in 2007.
Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, the big question today, I mean, it's on everyone's mind that I've asked everybody this month, and I'll continue to ask it because, I mean, it's what's on everyone's mind is how are you dealing with the fallout from the COVID-19 restrictions and sort of just the upheaval that's going on in the industry. I'm sure it's interesting, talking to whether they're mortgage companies, originators, that sometimes there's more folks that have to be in the office, and that makes it a little more of a challenge. And we talked to Josh Friend earlier this month with Accelerate, and most of his company had already gone remote, and so it wasn't that big of a hiccup for them to switch over. What about you guys? How has it affected BeSmartee?
Yeah, it's a great question. So operationally, we've always had a work from home mode. In fact, we're moving towards a work from home in the long term before the COVID-19 kicked in. That said, because we are a SaaS company after all, we try to make everything digital, as little paper as possible. Remote tools like Slack, for example, to go to meetings, a good combination of all that. The G Suite of products, right? So we're able to use that and continue operations when we had to move on a dime. Took us a little bit, took our InfoSec director a little bit of time to prepare a couple of laptops that were not hardened. But once we got through that hump, everyone went home and worked fine. I actually found that operationally we're doing very strong and doing very well. I think what it boils down, at least for myself, is the ability to manage remotely. It's easier to manage the results, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So able to look at the numbers and able to reduce distractions and focus in where focus needs to be. So that's how BeSmartee is doing. In terms of our clients, what we see is, we saw the big spike in March. At least from our client base, we're still seeing the same type of application volume in the weeks afterwards as we did in the weeks prior. It's really now it's a matter of, can these loans close?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, seeing just the numbers of, unemployment, first-time unemployment claims that have just, skyrocketed, it does make us kind of take a deep breath about going forward. But it's good to hear that at least so far that, pipelines are still full at this point and still working through them. So you're sort of breaking away from the COVID-19 talk, as we could, talk about that all day. But I'd love to hear more about what your focus has been at BeSmartee on the customer experience. I know that's been a big focus there, and that's been a big focus in the industry in general, especially on the tech side here. Where do you see that lenders are doing sort of the right thing, and where do you see that there needs to be improvement in how lenders communicate and work with their borrowers?
Yeah, so at BeSmartee, our objective really is to make the process easier, faster, more transparent for both consumers and lenders. So as much as we obsess about how to make the consumer journey experience better, we put equal amount of obsession into the lender journey as well. These are your loan officers, the processors that work in the system. What do we see them doing right, and what I'm seeing, where they need to improve? When I look back on our customers who are definitely, what I would say is killing it, they have dedicated resources. It becomes not only a channel, but it becomes a new way of doing business, right? It's a mentality shift. A lot of these companies understand that the skill sets that got them here won't get them there, right? So it's, a lot of these fundamentals go beyond just technology. You can get technology from a lot of people, right? But without people, process, technology working together, you can't create the entire whole. Now, from a technology perspective, what we see is the clients killing it are definitely looking forward. They're looking towards a time not only where it becomes a loan officer tool, but also looks towards it becoming more and more in the hands of the consumer.
Yep, absolutely. Do you see it more almost like as close as we can get to being sort of a self-serve thing, or first thing in my mind when you said that was, going into McDonald's and there's kiosks now where you go into grocery stores and, self-checkout. You seeing something closer to that than where we're at now, and maybe less hand-holding from the originator and more, control from the borrower's end?
It's an interesting question. We see it from both spectrums. We have some clients that all they want is a 1003 automate credit, and that's it. Hands it over to the originators, they take care of the rest. On the other side of the extreme, we have international banks that are looking for a 100% self-serve by the consumer. Consumer can go through, I got it. If I need help, I'll let you know. And then we see a lot of stuff in the middle ground. Majority of our clients are in the middle ground, where they're trying to break away from, okay, all right, I want to go beyond just a 1003 and automate credit. I want to automate pricing, I want to automate AUS, automate initial disclosures, all things that we solve. But the organization are not always ready for it. The originators are not always ready for it. We like to say, look, we're not trying to eliminate jobs. There always needs to be a loan officer, period. But we want to do is make sure the loan officer is focusing their attention and time and energy on the more difficult files. The borrower with 3 REOs, right? The borrowers that have 3 co-borrowers. Let's let them focus there. Let the easy stuff go through, and let them monitor as opposed to work in it.
Yeah, so more better allocation of resources, it sounds like. So just as like the 2007, 2008 financial crisis really changed a lot of thinking and processes in the industry, do you think the current crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, is going to have that same sort of impact as far as just changing the way people think? Maybe it's about, how easily we all seem to are switching over to remote. Is that something that's going to be a more of a permanent thing, or do you think when the economy opens back up, we sort of snap back into, old ways of thinking?
My personal opinion on it is COVID-19 is changed the world. We're not going back to the way things used to be. This is really going to be more of a personal, opinion than anything. But I think that once people are now working from home, they're going to want to continue working from home. When we took a survey at our organization, 80% of people want to continue working from home. The others actually want to go in the office for whatever reason, right? They want to be around other people. They want to collaborate. They want to do those things. So we're going to support both as an organization. But I can tell you personally, there's a lot of good that have come from this, right? God bless the people that are affected directly. But, for example, right, we all heard about the air pollution. better. Water quality, better. More time with family, not eating out, eating at home, and eating more healthy, right? Spend more time with my kids. And, we're talking about it a little bit earlier. So a lot of stuff that's coming out of it. I, for one, will definitely be more cautious, especially during flu season when I'm out. I'm not going to accept the fact that I'm going to get sick a couple of times a year anymore. There's ways, you can be prudent about it and avoid getting sick, even if it's just a simple cold or flu.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of this will transform our model, right? Work from home is definitely there. The ability to collaborate remotely, to serve your customers remotely, definitely a very clear direction there.
Yeah, I think for a lot of companies, I mean, the California MBA and what I'm thinking here, I mean, it's one of those things where when it first happened, there was a lot of uncertainty because we weren't, primarily remote. And so there's a lot of, concern about, is this going to work? How is this going to work? And then sure enough, within a couple of days, all the kinks are worked out. We, are still having our staff meetings remotely and using all these, technology tools that we've been hearing about for years that we're now finally using, and work seems to work fine. So yeah, I think to your point, it is, especially the work from home thing, I think is here to stay. And as we get back into the fall and we get back into flu season again, I think it's going to be another reminder of just how important it is to give people that option to work from home. So getting back to sort of what you guys do at BeSmartee and the changes in the industry, what do you think are the biggest impediments to sort of speeding up and simplifying the mortgage process even further than we're at now? I mean, is it the appraisals? Is it the document signing, the notarization, something else? I mean, what is it that you see as one of the biggest impediments to the, making the process better?
Yeah, I actually have a pretty unique perspective on it. I still go back to the fact that there's a shift in strategy, a shift in business processes and thinking that has to occur. But if you're talking about the nuts and bolts of the mortgage process, what makes us unique, right, is we put borrowers into a paid appraisal in about 15, 20 minutes. So we found ways to automate the pricing, the AUS, the disclosures, the e-sign, et cetera. So for us, we feel like we've gotten that taken care of, right? But so the question for us, where do we go beyond that? So that goes into the e-close, e-note, e-recording side of the world. But definitely with the COVID, you got appraisal issues, you got notary issues, you got title recording issues. So that automation of those back-end processes, especially those that have to deal with brick and mortar type institutions and processes and functions, we think that's where the lift needs to come.
Yeah, I totally agree. So when it comes to automation in particular, where do you see that, I mean, we've already covered this a little bit, where do you see the process can be automated further, and where do you see that just something that, I mean, maybe this is where you talked about, borrowers with unusual circumstances or just kind of tricky circumstances, maybe that's where the process is not going to be automated ever, and that's where, a good loan originator is needed. But where do you see the process can really be sped up with automation?
Gosh, I mean, everywhere, right? And I don't say that lightly. For example, our customers will push product and pricing and eligibility in front of the consumer. That's not very commonplace, right? Most originators want to control the pricing, control that experience. Our customers have taken a much more aggressive approach. So we've worked with them closely, for example, to say, okay, let's teach us how to think like a loan officer. You know that better than we do. So once we understand that, we're able to say, okay, if it's a purchase, if it's this type of scenario, this type of timelines, we present pricing a certain way, right, to optimize it to be easier and more transparent to that consumer. So, those processes can be automated, right? We automated AUS for the last, just 2016. You can take a borrower consumer-driven application, all data entry by the borrowers, run it through an optimizer, and then we can feed that over to DU and LPA. Get the results back 99% of the time, with valid findings. So, those are the type of challenges that we like. So I don't feel like there's anything out there that can't be automated. Now, are there certain things that can be automated less than others? Absolutely, right? Title recording, for example, that's going to take years and years of working with over 3,000, offices around the country to get right. But there's great companies, title companies out there that are starting to do that already for us.
Yeah, well, I know when it comes to e-recording and online notarization, I mean, California, honestly, when it comes to online notarization, that is something we are way behind, but I know a lot of other states have already, been aggressive in pushing forward and allowing that, and companies are moving forward with making that just a part of the process now. So hopefully California gets to that point here in the next year or so. And maybe even this crisis is sort of going to give give government in California the opportunity to sort of allow for some online notarization, kind of see how the process works. So sort of stepping back away from the industry for a second, I'm curious to know, you've sort of got that entrepreneur DNA, you've got that attitude that's just different, I think, than a lot of other people who just, and I'm one of those people who I just would never think in my mind that, I'm going to start a business. It just, doesn't occur to me the same way it would occur to someone like you. So, you've started a few businesses in the past. What suggestions would you have to someone who maybe does have that same bug that you've got and is interested in starting a company? What are maybe some tips that you would give them?
First, never ever give up, right? Believe in what you want to see happen, believe in your abilities, forget the naysayers, right? Just go in and do it. I think everyone's capable. You got to be a little risky to make that leap. Get your finances in line, or admit the fact that your finances won't be in line for a few years, right? So you got to actually, you really got to give up to gain, right? So you really got to make a decision if this is something that you want to do. For me, I was born to do this. I come from a family and of multiple generations have been entrepreneurs. That's all we do. So, we live and breathe it. So for me, it came very easy. But working with friends and peers, around the community, I really kind of just the same advice. Just if you want to do it, just do it. Believe in yourself. Forget the naysayers and make it happen. It's going to be a grueling road, but it's well worth it if that's those are the type of rewards that you want.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So sort of as we start to close out here, what's one thing that you would say that mortgage bankers should know that they don't? I mean, you've said a lot of things today that I think obviously mortgage bankers should know and should be paying attention and taking notes, but there's sort of one thing that you could leave us with. What's one thing that you see that they should know that they don't?
That's a great question. I would say, and I said it earlier, what got you here will get you there. Right? The way you originate, the way you run your business, the way you function yesterday is not going to get you there tomorrow. Right? For example, when you originate loans, you have the luxury of being on a phone call. You can fill people out. You can shake hands. You can kiss babies, right? You can crack jokes. You can build that relationship. As the world moves more digitally, those skill sets go away. Doesn't mean you can't develop skill sets that match, but you have to start working on those today. It's a long time journey, right? It's not going to happen overnight. You have to learn to read analytics, learn how to communicate in different mediums and write differently, communicate differently in writing or chat or smaller bursts of information. So what you got you here won't get you there tomorrow. Is really the best I can say about that.
Yeah, and from someone who, I mean, this is my job to communicate. It is definitely a different world, and I grew up writing long form letters in the political world, and now, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's now the shortest of short phrases and hashtags that are the nomenclature now. So Tim Nguyen, thank you for joining us today on Connect. That's all the time we've got. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. There's links on how to get in touch with Tim and BeSmartee in the description below, and we'll see you next week on Connect.